Hey guys, so in this video we're going to look at a real-world example of how you would get pre-made components and how you would put them into your project and edit them to work with your layout and the information that you want to display. So for this I'm going to show you a website here. It's called UIverse, and here you basically can get a bunch of different components here. And if you look here at the top, it says all of them are just HTML and CSS. So that's why I really like this website. Since there's no JavaScript in here, we don't have to worry about the components doing anything strange in the background. And we can always just edit that HTML and CSS to make it look the way we want once we copy one of these elements. So with that, I've created a new route here called projects, and I just put a page.tsx here, and I'm just exporting an H1. So all basic stuff, we've gone over this multiple times, and the H1 just says projects page here. So if I head back to the site here, we can see that this is what it displays here. Now you see a navigation bar at the top and a footer at the bottom. That's just something I've added to the layout file here, so this will display on all pages. I just added a navigation bar here and then a footer here, and then this is where each page will be injected into. So this spot right here is where our H1 tag drops into. Now with that out of the way, let's start by getting a UI component here. So I've got one selected already. This is just a card element. I'm going to use this to display different projects on the website. And you can see it has a nice little animation here at the bottom. But obviously it has some default text in here that we want to customize for each project. So firstly, I'm just going to take this as a component. So down here at the bottom there's an export for React button, and I'm just going to copy all of this. And now in our project I'm going to minimize all of these folders here, and I'm going to go into the components folder here where we have all of our components, and I'm going to create a new file, and I'll call this projects card. Okay, so I've just named it projectscard.tsx. And now we're just going to paste in what we copied here. Now before we modify anything here, this does use a package called styled components. So if you don't already have that in your project, you're going to have to open up the terminal, and you're going to have to do npm install and then style-components, exactly as it's spelled here. And once that's done installing, this will work. But there's also one more step we need to do, which is here at the top. We don't need this import for React, and instead we need to do a use client here. So the reason why we're doing use client is because this package styled component uses some React hooks in it, and as I mentioned before, we can't use React hooks on the server side, so we need to render this page on the client side. Okay, and with that, this is basically done. One thing we might want to do here is the function that it creates here is just called card, and we might want to modify this. So I'm just going to type projects_card here, and then we can do that at the bottom too, where the export statement is. So all the way down here we need to change this to projects_card, and now we can just go back to our projects page here and import it at the top. So import projects card from, and this will, your autocomplete will put this in for you, but we've already looked at how these @ paths work. So @ starts at source, and then /components/projects card, which is the file we created right here. So now that we have that imported, we can just put this in. So I'm going to put a tag here, and I'm going to say project card, and I'll just close this tag. So now if we view this, we should have the card right here, but it doesn't really fit in with our website, so I'm going to make some edits to it. But right now let's just work on positioning it correctly. So obviously I'm going to need a lot of project cards here, so I'm going to put these in a div, and I'm going to give this div some class names here. Remember, we give it class names because we want some Tailwind styles on this. So I'm going to do grid-columns3. So what this means is it will create a grid here, and it will split them up into 3 columns. So basically if we had 6 items here, it would put 3 on the first row and then 3 on the second row. Place items, center. So what this will do is, usually if we have 3 items there, it would start it off from the left hand side here, but now it will just neatly center all of our items. So now that we have that, I'm going to put a few of these project cards inside. So I'll just duplicate this a few times, and now if we head back, we can see that we have a few cards here and they're spaced out nicely. Now I might want to add some space between the cards that are below it. So I'm going to add space -y, and I'll make this like 5 to start out with. And yeah, that looks good. So okay, now we want to actually make these cards customizable, because we don't just want all of them to say the same thing. So let's look at that template that we got. And all the way at the top here, we can see that there's some HTML right here. And then below that, there's some CSS. Now I'm not really going to touch the CSS in this video, but I do want to change how the text here works. So I want us to be able to pass in information right here for each card that we create. So to do this, remember, we can create props. So up here where we're creating the function, I'm going to use my curly brackets, and I'm going to say title, and then a comma, and we'll also give a description here. So I need to create an interface for this, so I'll do interface project card props, and we use our curly brackets here, and then I'm just going to say title is a string and description is also a string. Okay, so now that we have our interface, next to the curly brackets here, we can just say this is of type project card props, and yeah, now we have access to these 2 strings inside of here. So here where it says category, I'm assuming that's the main title. Okay, so it's not that one, it's actually this one right here. So I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to add in our curly brackets here to inject some JavaScript. And now we want to inject this title right here. And then next we just want to do the same for the description here. Okay, so now we're taking in 2 parameters, title and description, and we're using it here. So now this element has become more dynamic. Now if we head back to the page here, we're going to see that we get all types of errors here. That's because now it's expecting us to pass in a title and a description, and we haven't passed that in. So I'm just going to get rid of all the other ones for now, and on the first one here I'm going to say title is equal to my card. And then next to that I can say description is equal to my description. And if I save this and we head back to the page, we can now see that it says the correct thing here, so we're passing in values dynamically. And yeah, with that we can basically use any element we want, just customize it, add in your own properties here, and then use those to fill in text on the element. And then obviously down here is just CSS. You can edit this however you want, change the colors, change the sizes, all of that stuff. And yeah, this is how you would use custom UI components that you can find on UIverse. There's also other packages that can give you custom components, but those ones often include like JavaScript and all that as well. And I don't really want any JavaScript that I didn't write myself running in my page. So yeah, I recommend you use UIverse and just use the HTML and CSS components. And then if you do need JavaScript or something, you can always write that yourself and add it in. And yeah, with that, I'll see you guys in the next video.